Hello, today we're going to talk about part 3. We're going to be multiplying and dividing one-step equations using fractions and decimals. Number 1 and 2 would just be review. So a number next to a letter we know means multiplication. So this says 15 times some number is 330. To solve a multiplication equation, we're going to use the inverse of multiplication, which is division. 15 divided by 15 is 1x. And then we'll do 330 divided by 15 to solve. Goes into 33 twice. And 15 into 30 goes twice. So x is 22. Okay, to check it, we would put 22 back in for x and do 15 times 22 to make sure it equals 330. Number 2 says some number divided by 6 is 48. The inverse of dividing by 6 would be multiplying both sides by 6. Think of it as a fraction over 1. Those would cross, cancel, leaving you with g. And then we will do 48 times 6 to get 288. To check, we would do 288 divided by 6 and make sure it was 48. So there's some review. Now we're going to get into fractions and decimals. Number 3, 2.3 times some number is 34.5. It says multiplication, so the inverse would be divide both sides by 2.3 to get n by itself. Remember, the top number always goes on the inside, so I have 34.5 divided by 2.3. Also remember, you may not have a decimal on the outside. We're going to scooch it once on the outside, which means we're going to scooch it once on the inside. So our new problem becomes 345 divided by 23. 23 won't go into 3, but it will go into 34 once. And you may have to do a little guess and check. It goes in 5 times evenly. Remember your decimals back here now, so it's just a whole number, 15. N is 15. Okay. To double check your work, you would do 2.3 times 15 to make sure it equaled 34.5. Let's look at number 4. We have a fraction. A number next to a letter still says multiplication. So the inverse would be divide this side by 1/5. I'm going to write it differently over here. I'm going to divide this side by 1/5. 1/5 divided by 1/5 as a whole is 1 whole. Okay. And then you have to think back to semester 1. How do we divide fractions? We keep it, switch it, flip it, right? We multiply by the reciprocal. We can't cross cancel. We'll multiply straight across to get 25/9. That is improper. We're going to do 25 divided by 9 to get our mixed number. It goes in twice, which is 18 with 7 left over. So 2 7/9. Okay. Number 5, a number next to a letter means multiplication. The inverse of multiplying would be dividing by 0.3 to get the g by itself. 56.1 divided by 0.3. You may not have a decimal on the outside. You're going to move it once on the outside, which means once on the inside. 3 goes into 5 once. 3 into 26 would go 8 times, which is 24. And 3 into 21 goes 7. And remember, again, your decimals back here, straight up, we just have 187. All right, let's start looking at number 6. Now it says some number divided by 3.2. To solve a division equation, we're going to use the inverse. The opposite of dividing by 3.2 would be multiplying by 3.2. Okay, so you'll get your S by itself. Remember, the longest digit goes on top. And then you count the numbers to move your decimal back in. So S is 16. What about fractions? A number next to a letter means multiply. The inverse would be to divide both sides by 2/3. Two-thirds divided by 2/3 is 1x. And then we do not divide fractions. We keep it, switch it, flip it. We cannot cross cancel, so we'll multiply straight across and get 21/20ths. Top number always goes on the inside. It goes in once with 1 left over. So 1 and 1/20th. Number 8. A number next to a letter says multiplication. The inverse of multiplying is dividing by 4. Okay, when you have a fraction and a whole number, remember that whole number goes over 1. And then we do not divide fractions. We keep it, switch it, flip it. To get 5/32. We have one more on the back. A number next to a letter means multiplication. The inverse of multiplying would be dividing both sides. And again, we do not divide fractions. We keep it, switch it, flip it, and multiply straight across. That is improper, so we're going to change it into a mixed number and get 1 and 1/5. Okay, feel free to go back and review those rules.